Hi, Murdoch here. Now this series is about how to practice. Now this sounds should be quite easy, right? You go to the range, you hit a few balls. But that's what people do, but it's not the right structure you should take. Now, remember this. Most of you are involved in a full-time job that's away from the golf course. It's away from playing golf. You only play once a week, if you're lucky perhaps, or maybe even less than that. And you're involved in a job that's probably very high stress. It might be in an office as well. It might be sat at a desk. It might be involving traveling on a train, in an airplane. So these factors, first off, is getting the mind in the right place. If you're working away from golf, you're not going to be thinking about golf. You'll be involved in the pressures of your job. Maybe your boss is putting pressure on you. Emailing. There's so many factors that aren't golf related that you do for 8 to 9 hours of the day. Then you've got your personal life, you've got your family at home, you've got your kids. So that's the mental side. It's getting your head into the right place for where you can be constructive when you practice. Now before you even, there's also the factor of limitations you might have. So if you're sat down on a day-to-day basis at your job, you're going to be in a position where your back's going to be stiff or become stiff. You might have had an injury, you might be older as well. Remember, these guys on tour are doing this game 8 or 9 hours a day. They're seeing physios, they're in extremely good health, they're very, very athletic, they train in the gym, they do everything to be the peak of their game. So it's kind of like the analogy of Rocky VI. The one where he's older and he's come back to try and beat the world champion. Now the world champion is half his age, maybe he's less than that even. He's athletic, he's the top of his game, he can do 12 rounds. He's faster, quicker and more stamina. So Rocky is up against him, and the premise is that he builds these hurting bumps. So he goes to the gym to try and have in him 3 or 4 punches that are harder than his opponent. So he's tried to focus on what he's capable of. So what I'm getting at here is, don't look at Rory swing, don't look at Tiger swing in his prime, don't look at anyone that's out of your age bracket and flexibility bracket. These guys haven't got any limitations yet, and their head is right switched on all the time. So you want to start looking at someone that's a similar age and build to you, plus someone that's got a similar kind of swing to you. But I guess more importantly than that, get your head in the right place of how to practice, what to think of, bearing in mind your limitations. So you're walking to the range, you can start getting your head in the game. So you're walking up to the range, you're starting to switch off from work, and you're asking yourself, what is it I want to practice? What do I want to achieve today? So that's the first stage. What do you want to achieve? You don't just go there and hit balls for the sake of it. You're going to the range to achieve something. Something that's a realistic goal and you're capable of doing. So we've got to be realistic. We want to warm up properly. You're not going to be Rory. Hate to burst your bubble. If you're middle-aged man, you're not going to be like Rory. Let's be realistic here. So let's overcome these limitations. So let's understand them first. Let's see if we're actually capable of swinging how we want to. So let's warm up properly. And I suggest you do exercises based around the turn drill and the plumb bob drill. If you've watched my earlier videos, you'll understand the plumb bob drill and the turn drill and variations of these. So the whole swing, in my opinion, is based around your angles that you can determine through these 2 drills. So let me show you. So you're at the range, you've got your balls, you're now going to do your warm-up procedure. So placing the club across your shoulders and standing in the hands and shoulders drill position. So get your angles right. Get the width of stance right. This should all feel pretty natural now. You shouldn't need a mirror for doing this, but if there's one on the range, and often there is one, that's perfect. So start getting the feeling of how you want the weight positioned. Remember, there's that slight tilt in your spine, so you have your right hip, right knee just inside your instep. Right, so when you're in this position, club on your shoulders. This is the position where you're touching the top of your knees. Club on your shoulders to extend the width of your shoulders. This makes it easier for when you make your turn, you'll feel one end of the club coming down, not pointing at the ball, but lower. So in this case, with me, it's my club head here. I'm turning to try and get the club head pointing in the direction of where the ball would be. This is helping limber me up, loosen up the lower back. Start to understand how far you can get your shoulders to turn. We want to try and do a 90-degree turn with a full swing. Full swing is like 7-iron, 6-iron and longer, say, for most people now, and I'm talking about the office golfer here. So as we turn, let's try and understand here, the discomforts are becoming your friend now. It's what I interpret as muscle memory. So I'm loading up. I'm feeling how I want the golf swing to be in the backswing. And then from this view, if you have a mirror, you can turn and you can start to see things happening. You can start to see that swing take shape as the guys are on TV. But you're now feeling the discomfort of this position, of this good position, and learning to be comfortable with it. Learning to be confident in this discomfort as a good position. So that's you warming up now with the backswing with the club on your shoulders. Again, take your time with this. There's no rush. Especially if you've had a day in the office, a week in the office, or travelled on a plane, train, and you've been sat down a lot, you need to stretch this lower back out. You need to feel the tightness in these hamstrings here. So do this gently. Get confident that you're not going to be limited in making full swings. Now on the way through, here we go. This is the direction you want the club end, in my case the grip, to point down more as you turn the hip. Can you feel how you're becoming athletic with your feet? You're pushing off that right instep where you had the majority of the weight load. You're turning through. You're keeping your angles that you created at address, maintained through the backswing, and importantly now, through the ball as you feel the clearing left hip, the pushing off the instep. You'll feel the right shoulder lower, left one higher. So again, you can't see, but this view now, on the way through, clear that hip. Feel the stretching up this left side, pinching on the right perhaps, and feel now, or imagine now, that this is where you want impact to be. This is the whole committing to the strike that we're going to do once we introduce golf balls. We don't care where it goes, remember, that's stage 3. This is stage 1. We are preparing our body to be capable of making the move we want to get that ball turf compressed strike. So take your time on these. The more you turn through, the better, while keeping your shoulders working on the line of your feet. So you might have seen my door frame drill, the plumb bob drill, the pushing into a tree stump, the sort of impact drill. These are all starting to become familiar to how you're feeling here. You've now warmed up properly. There's no point doing this exercise where you're standing tall with the club on your shoulders, just moving like this. You've probably seen it, I know I have, people on the first tee. All right, Frank, how you doing, bud? And they're just doing this. I mean, what are they doing? There's no angle. The ball's on the ground, remember? So create the angles of the golf swing when you warm up. Now you're ready to go. You're not ready to go to hit balls yet, mind. Steady the ship. You're now ready to introduce the club into your hands. You've got a familiar feeling now from that drill. You've warmed up the pressure points, the discomfort areas, understanding where we want to be through impact. So now we're introducing the club and starting to play little swings based around that drill. If you're on grass here like I am, you can see on the range where the club's hitting. You're not afraid of taking practice divots. So this is where it's probably better to be on the range if you have one, because I want you committing to the ball turf type contact, not a picking off clean contact. I want you to compress it. I want you to feel like you're being positive with the release of that club down. So you're now developing a practice swing where there's two or three preferably in a row, where you get that sense of the right strike. So when you're looking in a practice swing, focus on something that you can pretend is the ball. That's really important, because you want to train your eyes to focus on the ball. It's not a glazed ball, it's not a fuzzy edged. If you're threading the eye of a needle, you are watching and concentrating on the job. I want you to train your eyes to look at the back of the golf ball. That's about the 3 o'clock position, remember. Not the top, not the middle, not the front, it's the back, the side the club hits. So focus there. Make little swings. You can go down the handle, you can introduce the 9-iron drill here. I've got a little 8-iron down the handle. But basically, down the handle, because we want to get into our next comfortable position of where we're familiar, and that's the chest high position. The position we're at when we make this turn drill in the office or at home. You've loaded in, and can you see your arms will fall into this chest high position, right hand above the left, thumbs up, opposite right chest. So we're familiar again with something that we've done without the pressure of the golf club, without the distraction of a golf club and ball. We've done it in the office window. We've done it while we're waiting for that kettle to boil. So you can see that we're now starting to join the dots. We're getting in this position that we're familiar with from the turn drill. Then through the plumb bob, all right, to the chest high position here. Ultimately, we are now doing the 9-iron drill, which is joining the dots of the plumb bob and the hands on shoulders drill. So as we go back, here's the chest high, through to chest high here, making that ground strike, committing to hitting the ground where we feel we can get that divot after the ball.